Good evening. We're going to call to order of their agenda here to address the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding an agenda item. Submit a request to speak form before the meeting begins. Speakers are allotted 3 minutes, must limit their comments to the subject indicated on the form, and should address the Planning and Zoning Commission as a whole rather than individual members or staff. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, the Planning and Zoning Commission reserves the right to adjourn into executive session closed at any time during the meeting to seek legal advice from the city attorney on any of the items posted on the agenda. I'd like to ask for a roll call.
Andrew Mikowski,
Here.
Colby Cohen,
Here.
Michael Moran,
Here.
Perry Clemente.
Here.
Yeah. David Dickinson, Cuniff.
Here.
Chairman, you have a forum tonight for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. All right. Items for in the regular session, items for individual consideration. First item would be approval of the minutes from the May 11, 2023 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Approved unanimously.
If you'll take a vote on that as well. All in favor?
Oh, all in favor? Aye. Motion approves.
And just to confirm, Andrew, you motioned the initial motion?
Colby motioned initially, I seconded.
Okay. Second. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. First on our agenda is PZ case number 23-08. Discussion and recommendation to City Council for a neighborhood park zone boundary map.
Good evening, commissioners. So on your agenda, you'll notice that I think that we listed this as a public hearing. Of course, anybody in attendance is welcome to comment and discuss this. We'd certainly like to get some commentary, but this is a simple discussion and recommendation to City Council for a park zone boundary map. So I'll give you a little history on this particular item. So, July 9th, 1998. Do you remember that date? So the city council, they passed ordinance 153, which put in place essentially the neighborhood parkland dedication policy. And it created a special fund to collect park fees that were paid to the city in lieu of parkland dedication. So if you were to develop a property or develop a subdivision here in town, you were required to dedicate a portion of land for parkland. But if that did not occur, or you could pay a fee in lieu of the parkland dedication. Okay, so one of those requirements of the policy is how the city can utilize those particular funds. And they were designated in a specific geographical region, or a park zone. So the funds could be needed to be utilized within that geographical region upon which it was collected. And the city was to put in place essentially a map showing those particular park zones. The funds could be utilized in an adjacent park zone under certain conditions outlined in that policy, but that was limited to 2 miles from the nearest or that adjacent park zone boundary. I'll discuss that further here in just a second. But Ordinance 153 did not put in place that map. In fact, what it did is it tasked the Parks Board and P&Z to come back to council with the recommendation of what that map should look like. And so again, we're talking in 1998. There's been 2 amendments to that ordinance since then, but it just dealt with specifically the ratio upon how that parkland was dedicated. So, for example, if it was 1 dwelling unit for every 1 acre for every 100 dwelling units, over time that's been amended. And to date, I believe it's 1 acre for every 25 dwelling units. And we haven't touched this since, I believe, 2007, I believe. So it's been some time. Now, to date, staff, we've been looking for that map. I've asked, we've searched in our records, but I just couldn't find any details of a map ever having been created. So as a result, the Parkland Dedication Fund has accumulated fees over a period of time, but the city's been unable to utilize those funds until a map is adopted by council. And so attached to the staff report here is you have the proposed park zone map, which consists of 3 zones, all of comparable size, and each contiguous to the other. So they all touch each other. Staff were requesting that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval for this neighborhood park zone map. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the map.
Nathan, so park zone, okay, what goes on in that area? Do houses get built there? I mean, I'm lost on this.
Okay, so in the map, which you'll see here, essentially is the map of our city limits. And right, this is our city limit map. And it's been broken into 3 geographical regions, and we've identified 3 park zones. So you have the northern part of the city, and it's a lot of this is centered around Sonora Park. So Sonora Park is in Park Zone 2. But if you think about where the QT is on the north part of town, that would be Park Zone 1. And of course, on the east side of town, we have Park Zone 3 over there where Little School Road is, O'Reilly's and that part of town. That would be Park Zone 3. So what we've done here is we've just looking geographically, trying to be equitable with the geographical regions here in the town. We're 6 square miles, and so each one's about 2 square miles. It made the math pretty easy, and just trying to look at existing thoroughfares here in town. This is the map that we're proposing. No. This is essentially identifying when we collect a park land dedication fee, a park fee. So when someone builds a home, we assess a fee. For example, single family home, if you build a single family home, we assess a fee on that building permit about $1,200. That's in our fee schedule right now. So where those funds and where that home is being built, we'll now begin to identify where that fund or those monies were originated from. And so part of the policy is that if park fees are collected in Park Zone 1, they need to be utilized in a park in Park Zone 1, but it could also be utilized to purchase property, right? If we don't have a park in Park Zone 1, then we could use those funds to purchase real property to create a park, or or maintain a park, right? So that's kind of the intent. And so same thing on Park Zone 2 is that, if we collect a Park Zone fee or a park fee in Park Zone 2, it would need to be utilized within that particular zone. Now, the policy does have an exception. So it says we can use it in an adjacent zone as long as where we're using it in that zone is less than 2 miles from the boundary, right? From the boundary. So if I were to collect fees in Park Zone 3, which we've had some recent development in Park Zone, which would be Park Zone 3, we could utilize those funds if we did not have a park, and we couldn't purchase land there in Park Zone 3, in an adjacent zone, right? So maybe that's Park Zone 1. Maybe we put a park there, hike and bike trail, or Park Zone 2, right? Because it's adjacent to Park Zone 3 where the funds originated from. We could then use it to repair Sonora Park, right? Because Sonora Park is less than 2 miles from the nearest boundary of Park Zone 3. Does that kind of make sense? So that's kind of the intent of the map, is that we need a recommendation from P&Z. Happy to discuss it further. If you're okay with the boundaries, if you'd like to see them moved. Our intent behind it, again, was to look at the geographical region, try to be equitable with size, and then also make sure that our park zones kind of are adjacent to the other. So we have very limited parks, and that's been something that's been a concern for the community for a while. It's been a concern that the Parks Board has raised over time. Council has also echoed that. And so we want to be able to utilize those funds to create more parks, but also to repair existing parks that are in dire need of remodeling and repair.
All right, these funds are collected. Who monitors where they are, and who when they have to get used?
Mm-hmm.
How does it get voted on? Is it just a council thing? We want to use money to do this.
Yeah.
Who presents it to who to approve how much and whatever?
Great question. That policy directs finance to kind of keep track of where those funds are collected from. Of course, now in 2023, our permitting software, we're going to look at how moving forward, when we collect a park fee, that we make sure that we indicate on the permit and in our records what zone that is from. But any funds being used out of the park fund, or any fees being used out of the park fund, have to have council approval. So that's in the policy. So somebody can't just, I want to go buy a swing set or whatnot, but any funds that are used out have to be approved by city council.
Who would make like a presentation before those funds? It'd be like somebody from the park and.
It may be a staff member. Public Works right now is tasked with maintaining the parks, and they have a liaison for the Parks Board. And so next week we'll be discussing the same thing with the Parks Board, and hopefully iron out those details. So if they need to utilize some funds, or they've identified some parks that need repairs, and we have the funds that we can utilize for those repairs, they'll just need to present a staff report, go to council, and ask for permission to use those funds. And they'll have to have the dollar amounts, obviously. So council will need to approve expenditures.
Now, is that dollar amount public to the city, or is it?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's subject to all our other transparency records that we have regarding public funding.
It's up to the council to approve it.
Correct.
So we haven't approved an actual price yet. Is that correct?
Right.
Like, is there a fixed price fee or schedules put in place, like for residential, commercial, agricultural?
Yes.
And if so, what are those? Like, and do those adjust, like, say, if I have 5 acres of land versus 1 acre land, or a 1,200 square foot house versus a 3,000 square foot house?
It's not based off of square footage. It's based off of dwelling units, so residential dwelling units.
Okay.
So if I build one home, it's one dwelling unit. If I have a property, it's got 10 acres, and I put 10 homes on there, that's 10 dwelling units. If I got a duplex, well, it's 2 dwelling units. our fee schedule right now says per residential lot as well. So we look at that as well under review. But when we get an apartment complex, right, per dwelling unit, so per apartment unit, the last couple apartment complexes, I believe we're assessed a fee per apartment unit. It's a dwelling unit. Townhome, that would be a dwelling unit. So you may have a row of four. That's 4 dwelling units. That's 4 individual park fees.
What about commercial?
It does not get, I don't believe it gets applied to commercial. So
Okay.
commercial, in fact, in the policy doesn't mention anything about.
And only agricultural unless there's a dwelling unit on the agricultural. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. In fact, when we issue commercial building permits, that fee doesn't even come up in our, when we do our tabulation. It automatically populates what fees we collect, and we go and just adjust that. Parkland dedication isn't one of them. It's mainly for the residents. It's towards the residents because they're the ones that will obviously utilize our park, live in our community, and help us.
This has been in play for a while.
Since 1998.
Okay.
Yeah, so that policy's been in place. We've collected fees and fund, and that fund has grown over time. We just haven't been able to use any of those funds because there hasn't been a map, at least I couldn't find one. In fact, as far as I know, I think it's probably in Dora's backpack so.
Well, zone 3 should get a lot because they've had a lot of apartment complex in the past year and a half. So there should be a big park.
Mhm. Yeah.
Zoning, is it ever going to move into where, like some cities have, like city council, each council person has a certain, can't think of a word they use, it's a district. It's almost like 3 districts now, isn't it? I mean, I wonder if that ever play where each council person will have their own district too.
I don't know. I can't speak to that now. I want to be clear though. This isn't, it's when I say park zone, I'm referring to a geographical region, not necessarily zoning. So we're not talking about the Unified Development Code. This isn't an amendment to any additional or existing zoning. When we talk about R1, R2, C2 industrial, it's just identifying that region where those, so we can track where those fees were collected from.
Many years ago, they talked about council having their own boards or districts, and not bad right there. There's 3 of them chopped up right now for future use, Yeah. Because I know, I think the chief of police also said that they're trying to diversify certain patrol units in certain areas.
They already have that. They actually have 5 units
They do have
specific. Yeah, because I'm in unit 5. Like they have a dedicated sergeant and police officer, for
Yeah,
each
just
one.
trying to, we're not really any bigger. We're just getting more condensed and.
Yeah, they do have a geographical policing model that is quite similar to this. They obviously have a couple more zones. But we thought the math kit was pretty simple.
Okay.
And simple for me at least.
Yeah.
Said this has nothing to do with it. Just got
No.
How much has been collected already?
Something good, excuse me.
How much has been collected already in this fund?
That's a good question. I believe we're in the range of 700,000 or something. Did I misspeak on that? Yeah.
There's close to 700,000 in an operating fund right now for parks.
Oh, and again, so you're talking from, everything that's been built from 1998 and on, that's accumulated. So,
No money's been used out of the account, pretty much. Like, hasn't been ever.
Is there a specific reason why?
no map. So, and I don't know why.
Legally, okay,
it
so
hasn't
legally
come
couldn't
up
use it 'cause
sooner,
legally
but,
you didn't know where to apply it.
yeah, so
How did it get done?
I believe it came, I believe it came out of general fund. So parks, or the public works budget on that. So this is, putting this in place is going to help out significantly, particularly on the public works side.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing our part on the community development side, and we'll discuss some more with the Parks Board next week, and look forward to taking it to council. So with that, happy to answer any more questions, commissioners, you may have.
That's interesting.
So what's the current layout of our parks right now? And do we have, within these zones, are there any areas that have already been identified as future parks?
So I believe we have about 3 parks. We have obviously Town Center Park here,
Mhm.
Sonora Park, and I believe there's a pocket park by the fire station. We have other parks in town, but they're private parks, essentially, part of the apartment complex. Some that are maybe HOA maintained. I'm not aware of any major parks. Magnolia Hills has a little trail, a little walking area, and I think a small playground behind it. But as far as what's been identified for future park areas, I'm happy to return to y'all next month with that information once I glean some more details from the Parks Board.
Any other questions for Mr. Nathan?
No.
Before I get stuck, what is the next thing I'm supposed to do before Fez? After this point? Okay. 'Cause it's not on here.
Yeah, well, I'll, if you would, for your consideration, or staff is requesting P&Z, recommend approval to council. So if the motion, could reflect that, that'd be great.
Broke down here from the previous.
So I motion that based on the information presented, I make a motion to recommend approval of the neighborhood park zone boundary map.
Second.
So just ask for.
All in favor?
All of it.
Passes unanimously. Thank you down
Yeah,
there
we'll
to
look up.
give me the verbiage on that one. I didn't hear to read.
And then if you want to ask for a motion to adjourn,
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn this happy little meeting? Tim?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah.
All right, made it through in 16 minutes. Thank you.
thank you, commissioners.
I don't think I did too.
So everything you've got to say is like, go to the. Exactly. That's cool. I've got to do the same thing you're doing at Park and Recreation.
Well, thank you again. I've got dinner planned for the wife, so.
Where you going?
Accidents. It's kind of. Oh. Really get the inside. There's a lot of stuff happening.
All right, cool.
1998.
Yeah, really. Nice to know they found out that it needed to be done.
Oh,
I got over 700,000 sitting in the fund going. What do we do with it? Yeah, I don't know if that was going to be privy information to us or not. I don't know.